Hi, welcome back. Oh, it's so good to see everybody back from Thanksgiving. Did you have a good break? Everybody had a good break. Lots of food. I know. I ate lots of food. Did you get any rest? A little bit? Yeah, not too much. Not too much. But the big thing for the weekend, anybody go to the Auburn, Alabama game? Lauren, I know you did. You were a cheerleader. Anybody in the band? Nobody in the band here. Okay. Um, when I went to school here, as I'm sure I told you, I went to Auburn a long time ago. I was in the band. And so the Auburn, Alabama game was always our last game of the season. So hopefully this year we'll have a bowl game to go to and have one more chance. So I hope that works out for this year. But what thinking about the band made me think about my high school band director. I played the flute in the 7th grade. Have you ever done something for all the wrong reasons that turned out well? Well, that's how the flute was. The flute was instead of PE. If you were in the band, you didn't have to do PE. So that was a goal of mine. So I was in the 7th grade, took up the flute. Then in the 8th grade, after 8th grade, the 9th grade moved to the high school, and I tried out for the high school band. Well, as it turns out, I was the only 9th grade flute in the band. I was last chair, but I was in the A band, so that was awesome. Of course, it was a marching band, and so I think that's all the, karma from skipping PE. But I had to march, but that's okay. We had a director who could take a song and write the notes for every different instrument in the band, and then he could see how he wanted everyone to march during the song, and he could explain that to us and help us to see it and help us go through it every day, every day, every day, practicing. So by Friday, we had a halftime show, and it was awesome, and we had a great time. His name was Tommy Goff, and he was our director, but he was also a great leader. He was someone that you wanted to do what he asked you to do. He lived the values that he taught. He believed in hard work, and so we worked hard. He believed in not compromising on quality. So we worked so hard to make sure that we made that last step to get as good as it got. I was talking with my brother-in-law over Thanksgiving, and he was in the band as well. He played drums. And he said that Mr. Goff reminded him that it was always one last step to go from excellence to exceptional. And so that's what Mr. Goff brought to us. So we wanted to follow him. We wanted to do what he wanted us to do. We could see the dream, we knew the expectations, and we kept after the details until we got there. I wasn't a great flute player, ever. But I made an A minus in band in the 9th grade, and I was so proud of that. And now, knowing what I know about leadership and management, I realized he was giving credit for hard work. He was giving credit for trying. He was giving credit for enthusiasm, not just achievement. I didn't get an A minus because I was a good flute player. I got an A minus because I was part of that team and I believed in it and I did what I could do. There are many, many lessons I learned from Tommy Goff, and that's just one of them. I want you to think now, have you had someone in your life, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a boss, whether it's one of the people that you've worked with this semester? Think about it. You've been to 10 different food service establishments on campus. You've been to the hospital. You've been to 3 different schools. And at each of those places, you saw leaders, whether it was the dietitian or the supervisor or the lady that makes the cookies at the bake shop. There are leaders in each place. I want you to think of who you saw as a leader and then keep those names and we'll come back to them at the end. Okay? All right. Today what we're going to talk about are the responsibilities and opportunities in food service management. You've spent a lot of time this semester talking about what it's like to be an hourly employee. You've felt that in all of your dealings out in the community. You've gone and made sodas at Chick-fil-A. You've made sandwiches at the deli. You've gone to the city schools and fed the kids. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be the manager, okay? Because as the dietitian or as the food service director, that will be your role, okay? So let's talk through what we're going to do today. What's our plan? First thing, we're going to spend a couple minutes reviewing the food systems model. This is the model that we've used all semester. We'll go over where we have talked before, the subsystems, what they all meant, and then we'll look at where the manager keys into those. Then we'll talk for about 30 minutes about managers, what their roles are, what their functions are, what they do in the system. Well, you'll be able to define some management terms. You'll be able to differentiate between the different roles that managers take. One thing that I've always been intrigued by a management job is you wear many, many hats. Okay, if you had to change a hat every time you changed what your job was, you'd run out of hats. There are just so many things to do. We'll look at management skills, and you'll be able to tell the different skills. Then we're going to see a little video about how to manage people and become a better leader. And then we're going to get into our groups and talk about those managers and leaders that you remember. Okay? Any questions about what we're going to do today? Okay. This is our food service system. You've seen this many times, but let's just talk through it a little bit. We start here with the input. Now remember, input can be one of several things. It can be people, your staff, and all that comes with. All their experience, their abilities, their longevity in the department, all of that is part of the input, the people input. You have supplies that input, that's your food, your paper, your chemicals, all that has to come into the food service system. Then you have the building. You have your hospital or your restaurant. You have the kitchen. You have all the equipment in the kitchen. And then you have all of the operational needs, the money that you need, the information that you need, the utilities, time, all of that, all comes together as input to your system. Then all of that feeds into transformation. Now you remember transformation has 4 subsystems. The first is procurement. That's where you order the food and supplies, they come in, you check them in, you store them, right? And then you disperse them to whoever needs them. In the second subsystem, which is production, okay, that's where all of the items are taken from the way that you buy them to the way that you serve them. Okay, so that's production. Then you have service and delivery. So whether you have a patient tray line and you serve the meals one at a time, or you have a cafeteria and you send pans of food at a time, or if you have a commissary system and you send whole meals in bulk to another facility, that's all part of service and delivery. Okay, that's another subsystem. Then in transformation, you also have the 4th, which is safety, sanitation, and maintenance, right? Okay, you remember food safety because you've all taken the ServSafe exam and you've all passed it, and I'm very proud of you for that. I have any certificates that have not been picked up, please do that at the end of class today. But you all know your food safety now. Sanitation is so important, and safety not only for the food, but also for the employees. It's very important that your staff be safe as well. Part of that is doing the maintenance on the equipment. When I was in Washington, D.C., I had a vending machine, several vending machines as part of my job, and became a certified vending technician. It was very exciting for me. But anyway, one of the things that we had to know was CFW. Okay? That machine had to be clean, filled, and working. Okay? Just so your machine was clean, filled, and working, you were doing a good job. Okay? My husband was in the Navy, and the way they felt about things on the ship, if they made everybody keep them clean, then they would keep them working. Okay? Maintenance is huge. You have to keep things going. So those are the 4 subsystems within transformation. All right, so once you get it to service and delivery, then you're to output. Okay? Now, what's part of output? Well, we're food service. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make food, right? How much food do we need? We need the right amount of food. We need the right quality of food, right? We're looking at quantity and quality, remember? Good. Okay, so if we have that, then we're going to have satisfied customers. So customer satisfaction is an output. We're going to have satisfied employees. Employee satisfaction is an output. And if we can maintain our financial results, we're going to have a happy boss. And that's always important. Okay? So all of those things come together as output for our food services. So where does the manager come in? I don't see anywhere on there that there's a bubble for the manager. Surely the manager has to fit in here somewhere. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about today. The managers actually deal in all of the system, but mostly in transformation. Okay? And there are 5 big activities that managers must perform. The first is planning. Planning means establishing goals and objectives, and then setting the procedures to achieve those goals and objectives. The second function is organizing. Organizing means putting the work in groups, assigning it to people who are then responsible for it, and then providing coordination between the groups. So, for instance, all of the recipes that need to go to the cold food prep go to this group of people. These people are responsible for it. They'll coordinate with the hot food prep people to make sure that lunch is done. Okay, so there's a lot of organizing and coordinating. The third function is staffing. Staffing is tough. If you get it right, you're doing a great job. Staffing means recruiting, selecting, and training your staff. Okay? If you have the right people in the right places, then you're going to have a great organization. The fourth function is directing. Directing is also a human resource function, and it means that you are accomplishing all of the tasks that need to be done through the work of other people. So you direct other people how to accomplish those tasks. And then the fifth function is controlling. Controlling means you're making sure that the plans are being followed. It's like when we talked about quality control. It's an ongoing process. You're checking it all the time. You're looking at what actually happened compared to what should have happened. And then you're making any corrections that need to be made. Okay, so that's controlling. All right, planning is really the key to it. Planning means you're determining in advance what's supposed to happen. Okay, so you're establishing organizational objectives. You can see that's at the top of the diagram. That's usually from the organization. What is the goal and objective of the organization? For instance, if I worked at East Alabama Medical Center and I was on the board of directors and I wanted to determine the goal and objective of the hospital, I want to provide the best health care possible for East Alabama. Okay? So that's a goal and an objective. It's a future condition that everybody works towards.
At a reasonable price,
right? At a reasonable price. That keeps the boss happy. Yes, thank you very much. You're exactly right. Okay, the objectives are the endpoints that we're all planning to get to. So as a food service director, under that goal, I would want to provide healthy, appropriate, nutritious meals for each patient in accordance with the doctor's orders and my budget to your financial plan. Okay, so that's the objective. When we have the objectives, then we get more specific. Then we make the policies. Okay? The policies guide the actions of the organization. So we have a policy that nursing will tell food service as soon as the doctor writes an order for a new diet. Right? That's the policy. They're going to tell us. Okay? Then you have to have a procedure. The procedure means that the secretary, unit clerk, whatever they're called in the facility, has to send through the computer the diet change, which is then received by the diet office, who then processes it and gets the right food to the right person. Okay, those are the procedures. And then the methods, there may be different methods depending on different circumstances. For example, if you got a diet change, Mr. Smith just got out of surgery. He had his clear liquid diet this morning. He's doing okay now. He can have a regular lunch. If you get that order before lunch, then you go ahead and make the change, and he gets his sandwich or whatever he's getting as his meal. And that's perfect. If you get the order before lunch. If you get the order during lunch, he's already gotten his liquid meal, then you should have a procedure as to how to contact him to see if he really wants another sandwich. It's a different method, but it accomplishes the same goal. Okay, so methods may change, procedures are how you get them. Everybody okay with the different plans? Very good. All right, so planning actually has 4 dimensions. The first is repetitiveness. We've talked about repetitiveness when we talked about menus. Okay, you can have a single-use menu. Remember, if you have a wedding reception, okay, and the bride chooses the menu, you're not going to use that menu again probably. Okay, that's a single-use menu. You could have a standing menu. If you work at McDonald's, that sign stays pretty much the same all the time. It's a standing menu. So that's another repetitiveness issue. And then, as in most hospitals, you'll have a cycle menu, which means that it changes, but then it goes back and starts again. At East Alabama Medical Center, they're on a 6-day cycle, which means every 6 days it goes back and starts, and you do the same 6 days again. Does anybody remember what we said in a nursing home or in a hospital? Which would you rather have a longer cycle? That's right, in a nursing home, because you live there. People live there, and we often have 21-day cycle menus for nursing homes so that they don't have the same food every week. You know, if it's Tuesday, it must be ham, kind of thing. It'll be every 3 weeks. So very good. Okay, the next dimension of planning is the time span. You can have a short-term plan or a long-term plan. Now, short-term plans are usually about a year. Okay? Every year, the hospital will decide through their crystal ball how many patients they think they'll have next year. So from that number, you as the food service director will be able to do your budget for the year based on how many patients you feel like you're going to have over that year. That's a short-term plan. It's a year, okay? A long-term plan is more like a 5-year plan. It's more of a, we're going to build a new women's center. We're going to expand the kitchen. We're going to get a new dining food court or something like that, more of a 5-year plan. Okay, so that's time span. Levels of management, not all decisions are made on every level. There are some high up managers in things, okay? You won't probably be that person for a while. Okay? But that's the person, that's the board of directors, that's the president, that's the vice president of the hospital who sets the policies, who sets the goals, who sets the objectives. Okay? That's top managers. Then you have middle managers who develop from those priorities for the department, and that's what you would be as the food service director. Then you're going to have frontline managers who are your supervisors, your assistant directors, who figure out the procedures and the methods from those goals and objectives. Okay, so see how it all ties together? All right, then flexibility. Flexibility is always a good thing in food service. Okay. Long-term planning, that's important. Okay, it's important to know what you're going to try to do, but you also have to be flexible. There are things that change. New technology comes into play. All of a sudden, you can go to a patient's room with a computer, type in their selection, and come back and sync it with the main computer. You don't have to call them, you don't have to write it down, any of those things. If your plan had been to have written menus for the next 5 years and you stick with it, you miss out on the technology. So be flexible, be willing to change, and you'll be much more successful. All right? Now, managers, through our model, have to coordinate the human resources and the material resources, right? Okay, there are 5 important concepts to me. The first is authority. You know what authority means? It's the person in charge, right? Okay. Why do they have that authority? Why am I in charge of this class?
You get paid.
That's right, it's my job. I get paid to do it. I've been given that position, and I have the authority. If I run the food service department, I can decide we have fish every Friday. That's my job. I have that authority. The second is responsibility. What's the difference with responsibility? Responsibility means that you take on the task of making sure something happens, right? Okay, that's something that you accept. You can't pass it on to someone else. All right, you can't say that you want someone else to do what you're responsible for. And then the third is accountability. Accountability means that you, having taken on that responsibility, you are accountable to the organization, to the hospital, to the patients, to the clients, whoever you're dealing with. You are accountable for getting done what needs to be done. Okay, it's important as a manager. Then the 2 other words that are important are right there at the top of the screen. Efficiency and effectiveness. Do you know the difference? Okay, that's fair. Efficiency is doing things right. Okay, if you do it right, then that's efficient. If effectiveness is doing the right things. Okay, so you're effective if you're doing the right things. Now, as a manager, you're going to have lots and lots of roles to take on. You're going to be responsible for a lot of different things, and they come fast and furious. One of the case studies we'll do next spring is an inbox study. You come in and I give you a list of everything that's in your inbox and on your email and on your phone messages. And you decide what's more important, what comes first, okay? But they'll all fall into these roles of managers. There's 3 groups. First is interpersonal. First being a figurehead, okay? I'm the head of the department. I'm the figurehead. If they need someone to go represent the department at the Mother's Day tea, it's me. Okay, I'm the figurehead. I'm the face of this department. I'm also a leader. I'm responsible for making sure that the work gets done and that our staff is taken care of. Okay? That's my leader role. I'm also a liaison. I am the go-between between our staff and the other departments in the hospital, between the hospital and outside vendors, okay? Outside clients, any other organizations that I am the liaison for. I'm in the middle, okay? Those are all interpersonal roles. It's how I deal with people as part of my job. Then there's informational roles, which is passing along information, right? First is monitor. You are constantly monitoring information to find better ways to do things, to find ways to be more effective. So whether it's through reading restaurant news, through the Journal of the Academy, through your web of influence that you create when you go to meetings, other people that you've met in the organization, wherever you find the information, you monitor it, you bring it back home, and you put it to use. You're a disseminator. Of all the information that you have, some of it needs to be disseminated or given to the staff. The staff doesn't need to know everything. They don't need all the details. So it's your job to decide what is important to pass on and who you pass it on to. Your supervisors and assistant directors get different information than your hourly staff. But it's your job to make sure that people know what they need to know. You're a spokesperson. It's like the figurehead. If somebody wants to know something about this department, then I would be the person to tell them. Okay? I'm the spokesperson for the department. And then you also have decisional roles. Entrepreneur. Entrepreneur, you usually think of as starting your own business, right? That is when you volunteer to make a change. Often change is a four-letter word, and we don't want it to happen. But sometimes you decide to make a change. We decide to expand our cafeteria. We decide to change our menu. Whatever we're doing, that's our decision to make a change. Okay? We are disturbance handlers. There are, hopefully not often, but there are things that happen. There could be a strike. Your staff could go on strike. You could have a tornado come through the town. Your food delivery truck doesn't come today. Those are all disturbances, and you as the leader have to know how to handle them. You're a resource allocator. You decide. You know how much money you have. You know how many resources you have. You decide how they're passed out, how they're distributed, who's going to get the money, who's going to get the support, who's going to get the new equipment. That's your job. Okay? And then negotiator, that means leading the discussion, keeping people talking until decisions are made. I think the hardest negotiation I ever had to be the leader of was in Washington, D.C., trying to get the nursing staff to understand how important it was that they pick up the dirty dishes in the rooms and bring them out and put them on the cart, instead of food service going back and saying, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" to take the plates. It was much less disturbing for the patients, and it was more seamless for the whole organization. But we had to work on it for a while until nursing saw that that was an option. We tried it, it worked, and off you go. Okay? So there are a lot of hats to wear, a lot of things to do. Any questions so far? Okay, excellent. Okay, management skills. What skills do you need? You're here deciding whether you want to be a food service manager. What skills do you need? There are three basic types. The first is technical. This is specialized knowledge. This is analytical knowledge, how to make a budget. This is technological knowledge, how to work the computers, how to work the diet office. This is procedures, how to make something happen within a particular scenario. Okay, those are technical skills. Then there are human skills. Okay, how do you talk to people? How do you work with people? How do you get them to understand what you need, get them to buy in, get them to want to do what you need them to do? It's communication. It's also demonstrating through your actions. Okay? One management term that I hear over and over is manage by walking around. There's a MB, manage by W, MBWA, thank you. Manage by walking around. You're out there, you see what's going on. You're wearing a hairnet because that's what you're supposed to do. You're helping, you're smiling, you're greeting, you are showing through your actions what you would like to have done. It's do what I do, not what I say. And then there are conceptual skills. That's being able to see the big picture. That's like my band director. He could see the whole thing. Okay? As the food service director, you know everybody that has to eat today. Okay? You see the big picture. And you know if something happens over here, how it's going to affect what happens over there. So that's the big concept. Not everybody does that, and that's okay. Not everybody has the same job. Are all managers the same? No. Does everyone have the same skills? No. There are strengths and weaknesses with all of us. We can all learn. We can all continue to learn. I want to show you a short video that gives you a little bit of advice as you start off in your career. Some things to think about in terms of being a leader. And just know that it's a advertisement for a leadership company, and so I'll cut off the ad at the end. But I just want to show you this quick video. Okay, do we have anybody technical in the audience that can come help with this? No. No students. All right, well then we'll watch it, and I'll talk you through it. All right, as you start out in your career, you're going to have traits and skills. Okay, some are character traits, interpersonal traits, communication traits, and that's how you interact with the people above you, beside you, and ahead of you. Okay? Leadership and people management is what you are involved in as a food service director. So, as you proceed, you need to manage your own development as well. How do you deal with customers? You want customers who are happy and come back and come back and come back. But sometimes things don't go well. So, do you also know how to maintain rapport with unhappy customers? Yes, you do. And that's through communication, and you should have some ways that you know how to make people feel better. So the first thing you do is reiterate their views. My samples didn't come? You're exactly right. I did not deliver your samples. So let me call right now and get them delivered today. That's one option. The second option is to put the customer's needs first. He needs his samples. And you say, yes, you do. But I have another idea. Then you could give him the pros and cons. All right, first of all, I could get your samples here tomorrow, and that would meet your deadline. Or if I had 2 days to do it, you could have an improved quality. So there are often options when you're dealing with an unhappy customer, what you can do and how you can deal with it. But you'll work through those in your department. You also need to be assertive with your subordinates, not to run over them, not to bulldoze them, but to be honest with them and let them know what your expectations are. Why are they doing what they're supposed to do? It's important that they understand it. But it's also important that you're open to their suggestions. And you always accept responsibility for your decisions. Don't be wishy-washy. You made the decision, you're the leader. Okay, it's important to have good relationships with your supervisors. They need to be able to process information. Some people do better if they can see it. They do better with charts and graphs and videos. Some people learn through hearing it. So you have a one-on-one conversation with them, do it over the phone, help them understand it through hearing. And then you have people who have experience and do better if they experience it. So you take them and let them see. Now, coworkers, you want them to understand that together you can accomplish big things. There are some influencing styles. One is a push way of influencing, and that's logical. This is logical, this is what we're going to do, this is how it is. Then there's carrot and stick. Carrot being, this is what we'll get. Stick being, this is the punishment if we don't do what we're supposed to do. And then you have pull influences as well. One is consultative, asking their opinions. And then the other is people that can see the big picture. And they know the values, the goals of the organization. So, for yourself, you want to be able to assume greater responsibility and bigger challenges. You want to be able to grow in your management style and in your career. So you need to have your goals. Know what training you need. Know what your strengths are. Build on your strengths and reduce your weaknesses. Now this is the group out of Singapore Workforce Skills Qualifications. And so I'm going to turn that off because you're not going to Singapore to learn this. But what I wanted you to see was that communication, working with people, it's all over. It's not just food service. It's being a leader in any organization. Okay? Go back to the slideshow. All right, now what I'd like you to do is get into your groups. You know your groups. It's the same that you use for lab, okay? Divide up in your groups. What you're going to do is you're going to take, we have about 10 minutes, take 8 minutes and talk about the things that you remember, about the leaders that you've worked with, about the managers that you've come in contact with. What worked for you? What was good? And what didn't work for you? What did not resonate well with you? Okay? So talk about that amongst yourselves for about 8 minutes. And then we're going to do, like we've done before, the 1-minute essay. Remember this? The last minute of class, I want you to write for me the 3 traits of a leader that you respond to the best. Okay? And I'll be by the back door, and you can leave them with me on your way out. All right? Any questions? Great. Break into your groups and talk amongst yourselves. Thanks so much.